Hey guys, this is Hunter from Brunk Outdoors, and in this video I wanted to give a public land hunting tip that I think will help a lot of you guys out, and I think that doesn't get talked about enough. So you can see me hanging a trail camera in a tree that apparently had poison ivy and poison oak all over it, as I'm finding out in the days after this was shot. And this was in a unit that I turkey hunted a ton this past spring, and so I'm very familiar with the lay of the land. And Trevor and I also came in here during late winter and went on a little bit of a scouting mission in here, and we were able to find several sets of definitely mature buck tracks, just really big tracks in here, and we think we were able to find several big buck beds and the actual locations that they're bedding in. So we know the travel routes in this area, we know how the land lays out, and we think we know where the big bucks are bedding, several locations of them. So I came in here with my dad on this particular day, and I hung a trail camera to really try to get some more information on these bucks and try to see what type of caliber of bucks are in this area and see if they're still using the area, what time they're using the area, when and where they're traveling, and just get some more information on them. So hopefully this camera gives me useful information about the deer I'll be hunting in this area, and if it doesn't, I'll go back in there in a couple weeks and I'll move it around to hopefully be able to locate the big bucks in this area and try to get a plan to hunt them this fall. But as I was going in on this scouting mission with my dad, I was thinking about a topic for public land hunting that I think doesn't get talked about enough, and that is that not all distances are created equal. You always hear people talk about how you have to really get far back into these public land areas to escape the hunting pressure if you want to get into mature bucks. And while I think that's true, I want to state that it's not the distance necessarily, or it can be, but it's not always the distance that can separate you from other hunters in the woods. I was thinking about this on this scouting mission in particular because we were over a mile from any of the nearest access points to where we hung this trail camera, but yet I found the hike in there to be extremely easy. It only got difficult within the last 200 yards or so of where we finally set up the camera. And the reason for that is because there's just access roads all over this particular hunting unit here. And there's still plenty of deer, and we think there's mature bucks out of the tracks that we found. But my point is the access is really good on this whole unit, so just getting back really far into this area might not be enough to really escape most of the hunting pressure. You really have to look at these public hunting areas on a case-by-case basis. And I was thinking about this in contrary to the day before. We went into a public hunting area that we had never stepped foot on before and really didn't pique my interest all that much. It's a little bit smaller of a unit, and I wasn't sure if it was big enough and if you could escape the pressure enough to where it would hold big bucks. So I had never gone and scouted it before, I had never really checked it out, but it was always in the back of my mind, and finally there was an opportunity to go and step foot on it and scout it. So I ended up bringing a trail camera along in case we found a pretty good spot for it, and in case I wanted to find out more about the unit and if I thought it looked promising when we got in there. So we ended up getting far back in there, and we were able to get about 3/4 of a mile back in there. The way it sets up, it's not too big of an area, but there's only one access point, and so we were able to get a decently far back in there. And even more so than that, there were no trails, there were no access roads, so all of this walking was through really thick, tall, nasty marsh stuff. We were also running into several waterways blocking a lot of our access, and terrain features like these and the fact that it was really thick made this unit far harder to access than this giant unit that you can see me hanging a trail camera on in here. So I wanted to state that it's not always the distance that can provide you a way to get away from the hunting pressure. It can also be terrain features and other factors such as just limited access with no walking trails or anything like that. And while you may think this should be common sense, and it should, I find that I wasn't thinking of this particular piece of advice here when I was looking at maps, because I would have never made it a priority to go scout the smaller piece of land that we ended up hanging a trail camera on. And maybe that unit won't be good, but I'll have a trail camera there now to tell me whether there's any mature bucks on there and to get information off that piece of land. And now I'll know for sure. But my point being is, if I would have just looked at maps and not gone to this area and seen how hard it was to access, I wouldn't have known that you can probably get away from the pressure in that unit, even though it isn't as big as some of these other really big hunting areas. So anyone who's just scouting and looking at maps and looking at public hunting areas without stepping foot on them and just completely ruling them out, I want to just tell you guys that you should probably go step foot on them to really check out the access and see really how the hunting pressure is likely going to compare to a lot of these other areas. And you might find yourself with a piece that could be overlooked by other hunters and really could hold mature bucks.
Maybe clockwise, so just a tiny bit.
Just wanted to make this video to
I just don't
point a couple of those things out and share with you something that I realized over the last several days. And I could have made it into a full video blog series, talking out in the field, but I was just really enjoying scouting with my dad and didn't want to take too much time talking to the camera, so I figured I'd just do it back here at home. But anyway, I'll be getting out in the next several weeks or next month, and I'll be checking the camera that you see me hanging in this video and the one I hung the day before this to really determine whether I need to move them or see if they're already getting information on mature bucks and if I can just leave them where they are. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, if you learned something, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. It really helps the channel grow and helps us out. And subscribe to Brunk Outdoors if you haven't already. Thanks. That's awesome.
It is good.